Something just happened in the Strait of Hormuz that fundamentally changes everything about what's coming next. This morning, I witnessed Iran make a decision that reveals far more about their weakness than their strength. 130 fast attack boats are no longer hidden. They are not concealed in harbors. They are not tucked away in the coastal hideouts that the IRGC has relied upon throughout this entire conflict. Instead, they are sitting in two massive coordinated formations, completely visible from space. Fresh Sentinel-2 satellite imagery dropped this morning on May 10th, 2026. It captured something unprecedented. The IRGC's entire mosquito fleet is now positioned near Qeshm in the Rock Islands, deliberately exposed in the most public naval display the Islamic Republic has made since this conflict began 71 days ago. Let me help you understand exactly what this means, because this is not an accidental leak. This is not a mistake. This is Iran's newest threat position. This is a visual statement they chose to make in broad daylight for every intelligence system, every commercial satellite platform, and every analyst watching the world over to see. 130 boats formed up in tight, unmistakable patterns that broadcast their presence to the entire international community. The IRGC did not just move their fleet. They released the exact coordinates of their own threat posture to the world. They made this public on purpose. At the exact same time, CENTCOM responded with its own imagery. F-16 Vipers actively flying sorties over the Strait of Hormuz. FA-18 Super Hornets on combat air patrol from the decks of the Abraham Lincoln, the George H.W. Bush, and the Gerald R. Ford. We are talking about the largest concentration of American carrier aviation in the Persian Gulf in history. AH-64 Apache attack helicopters are operating in the same waters where they already sent the first wave of IRGC boats to the bottom on May 3rd. Two simultaneous image releases, one from Iran, showing what it still possesses, one from the United States, showing exactly what will answer it. This is not normal military movement. This is not routine operations. This is a deliberate visual conversation happening in real time. This is a strategic dialogue being conducted through satellite imagery rather than through diplomatic back channels. I am telling you this clearly. Iran has chosen to show us its remaining cards on the water. America has chosen to show them precisely what those cards will face. The timing is intentional. The visibility is intentional. The coordination is intentional. Everything about this morning's exchange is calculated and deliberate. This is the new reality in the Strait of Hormuz on May 10th, 2026. The IRGC just placed its fleet in the spotlight, and the United States has already responded in kind. What comes next will be defined by how both sides interpret these satellite images and whether this calculated display of force leads to deterrence or escalation. But I need you to understand something much deeper. I need you to see the complete truth behind this display. Iran did not suddenly create 130 new fast attack boats. These are the survivors. These are the remnants of the mosquito fleet that has been fighting and bleeding for the past 71 days. Before this conflict began, Iran operated more than 160 naval vessels. Today, their conventional navy, the frigates, the corvettes, and the larger surface combatants that could challenge American destroyers in open water, has been largely destroyed or rendered completely ineffective. What you are seeing in those Sentinel-2 images is not a show of strength. It is a confession of what has been lost. It is an admission of failure. I want you to understand this clearly. By bringing these 130 boats together in plain sight, the IRGC is simultaneously demonstrating their remaining asymmetric capability while admitting that their traditional naval power has been systematically dismantled. This is the harsh reality they now face. They no longer have the luxury of concealment. Instead, they have chosen visibility. This is a deliberate gamble to project deterrence with whatever they have left. This move tells us as much about their weakness as it does about their remaining threat. Let me be very clear with you. I do not underestimate these boats. The 130 fast attack vessels now positioned near Keshem represent a real and dangerous threat that would be foolish to dismiss. These are classic IRGC mosquito fleet units. Most of them run between 60 and 75 feet in length, powered by diesel engines capable of reaching 50 to 60 knots. That speed gives them a significant advantage over American destroyers in the tight, confined waters of the Strait of Hormuz. They are armed with 107mm rockets, 127mm heavy machine guns, and 23mm autocannons. Some variants also carry the C-802 anti-ship missile, a Chinese-origin weapon that skims the sea surface at subsonic speed with a 160-kilogram warhead and a range of approximately 100 kilometers. It is a genuine ship killer. Weapons alone, however, do not tell the full story. What makes these boats genuinely dangerous is the doctrine behind them. The IRGC calls it swarm tactics. This is not a single-file attack that Aegis systems can handle sequentially. This is multiple formations splitting into simultaneous approach vectors from different directions at the same time. Their goal is to create saturation conditions, forcing our defensive systems to engage so many threats from so many angles that the math of interception becomes extremely difficult. I want you to understand this point clearly. These boats cannot win a conventional naval battle against American surface forces. They were never designed to. Their entire purpose is to overwhelm point defense systems through sheer volume and vector diversity. That is exactly what the IRGC is trying to communicate with this morning's formation. These 130 boats are the last meaningful card Iran has left on the water, and they are showing it to us openly. Now let me show you exactly how America plans to answer this threat. Because while those 130 boats look intimidating on satellite imagery, I can assure you that the U.S. military has already mapped out multiple layers of response, and they begin long before the boats ever reach firing range. The American defensive architecture starts with detection. High above the Strait of Hormuz, the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye serves as the airborne early warning and battle management platform. Its powerful radar paints a complete air and surface picture, tracking every single boat from the moment they begin to move. That continuous track data feeds directly into the kill chain. Supporting the Hawkeye are F-35 Lightning IIs with their APG-81 active electronically scanned array radars. These fighters can simultaneously track dozens of surface targets while remaining merely invisible to the enemy. The F-35 does not need to broadcast its position. It simply sees everything and shares that data silently through the Link 16 network. The RQ-4 Global Hawk adds persistent, long-endurance intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance coverage, orbiting for hours and filling in the gaps when boats try to hide behind islands or coastal terrain. All of this information flows through a single integrated network. Every platform, every fighter, every helicopter, every drone, and every ship operates as part of one cohesive system rather than isolated assets. This is what gives us the decisive edge. Once the boats commit to their attack, the tactical response shifts to sector assignment. The Strait of Hormuz is pre-divided into geographic kill zones. Each sector is assigned to the most suitable platform based on weapons load and threat density. If a boat crosses from one sector into another, it is immediately engaged by the new platform responsible for that area. This method prevents wasteful overlap and ensures that no target escapes engagement. And here is the platform I want you to remember most when you think about these fast attack boats. The A-10 Thunderbolt II. That ugly, slow, armored beast carries the GAU-8 Avenger, a 30mm 7-barrel Gatling cannon that fires depleted uranium penetrator rounds at 3,900 rounds per minute. A fiberglass hull hit by even a short burst from that cannon simply ceases to exist. The A-10's low and slow loiter capability, combined with aerial refueling from C-130 tankers, allows it to stay in the fight for the entire duration of a sustained swarm engagement. It was literally built for this kind of mission. Pairing perfectly with the A-10 is the AH-64 Apache attack helicopter. Its Hellfire missiles can reach out and destroy boats at ranges where the boat's own weapons cannot touch them. The Apache's helmet-mounted targeting system lets pilots engage targets simply by looking at them, an enormous advantage in the chaotic, confined waters of the Strait. These two platforms together already proved their lethality on May 3rd, when Apaches sent the first wave of IRGC boats straight to the bottom. Surface forces also bring devastating firepower. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyers carry 5-inch Mark 45 naval guns with a 6 nautical mile range and rapid-fire capability. These guns are perfect for engaging maneuvering surface targets at closer ranges, where missiles become less efficient. But the most strategically significant option is not even in the water. It is on land. Before these boats ever launch, the U.S. can strike the coastal hideouts and staging areas directly. The GBU-72, 5,000-pound bunker-busting penetrator, has already been used effectively against hardened coastal missile sites in this conflict. The same weapon can be employed against the very coves and command nodes that prepare and coordinate these swarm attacks. A boat destroyed in its shelter before the crew even receives the launch order never gets the chance to join the formation. I want you to fully grasp what this means. The IRGC has publicly released the exact coordinates of these 130 boats through Sentinel-2 imagery. Those locations are now locked into every American targeting system. The option to neutralize them before they disperse is not theoretical. It is a live planning calculation being run right now by F-16 Wild Weasels, F-35s, and B-1B Lancers already operating in theater. This is the complete layered response. Detection from above, network-centric command and control, sector-based engagement, devastating close air support from A-10s and Apaches, naval gunfire, preemptive strikes at the source. Every layer is designed to make the IRGC's swarm doctrine far more difficult and far more costly than their planners ever anticipated. The 130 boats may be fast, they may be numerous, but they are facing the most sophisticated, experienced, and heavily reinforced naval aviation and strike capability ever assembled in the Persian Gulf. 3 carrier strike groups, over 100 combat aircraft ready for this exact mission, a fully worked kill chain that has already demonstrated its effectiveness. I am not saying this lightly. The IRGC knows the math. They know what happened to their colleagues on May 3rd. And now, with their entire remaining fleet sitting exposed in 2 large formations, they are forcing us to show them once again exactly what stands ready to answer. This is the reality that Sentinel-2 imagery cannot hide, no matter how dramatic the formation looks from orbit. Now I want to take you deeper, beyond the boats, beyond the weapons, into the hidden layers that truly matter this morning. Because what we are seeing in the Strait of Hormuz is not just a military display, it is the visible surface of a much more complex internal struggle happening inside Iran right now. The name you need to remember is Brigadier General Mustafa Salami. Yes, the older brother of Hussein Salami, the IRGC commander-in-chief who was killed in Israeli strikes back in June 2025. While his brother was loud, constantly on television, delivering fiery speeches and threats, Mustafa Salami is the opposite. He stays almost invisible. Rare media appearances, no propaganda tours, no dramatic statements. He is a regular Iranian army officer, not IRGC by background. He is a veteran of the brutal Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s. I want you to understand why this man matters so much today. He currently serves as a senior advisor to the Chief of General Staff for Operations. His job is to bridge the institutional gap between Iran's regular armed forces and the IRGC. That boundary between the professional army and the Revolutionary Guards has become the most dangerous fault line inside Iran right now. The New York Post has already reported on the growing civil war between hardliners and the civilian government. Mustafa Salami sits exactly in the middle of that divide. Let me be direct with you. The decision to release these 130 boats in open formation this morning was not made lightly. Someone with real authority inside the Iranian military apparatus approved broadcasting their exact coordinates to the entire world. That decision reflects a calculated gamble. They are not preparing an imminent surprise attack. Institutions planning real surprise attacks do not publish satellite-visible formations. Instead, this is a deterrent signal. This is a bargaining chip placed on the table through visual military posture, rather than through quiet diplomatic channels through Pakistan or Qatar. The IRGC hardliners still control much of the institution and its resources, but the regular army carries a different institutional memory. The memory of 1988, when Ayatollah Khomeini was forced to accept a ceasefire he famously called drinking poison. The veterans who lived through that war know what it feels like when continuation becomes impossible. Mustafa Salami belongs to that generation. His low profile suggests he is focused on actual operational reality rather than performative propaganda. That makes him potentially one of the most important voices advising on how Iran should respond to the next American moves. I need you to see the full picture of internal pressure the IRGC is facing while they show off these boats. For 71 consecutive days now, Iran has been under one of the longest internet blackouts in modern history. Millions of ordinary Iranians have been completely cut off from the outside world. No access to accurate news, no communication with family abroad, no ability to conduct normal business in the digital economy they were slowly building before February 28th. But here is the part that reveals the regime's true character. And this is documented by CNN reporting that broke through the blackout. Subscribe to Eliza Grant Reports right now, because understanding the hidden power structures shaping global conflicts is what separates informed citizens from the uninformed masses. And everything happening in the Middle East today will define your security tomorrow. Iran is running a two-tier internet system. Senior IRGC officers, regime elites, administrative officials, and trusted insiders still enjoy full privileged connectivity. They can access everything. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens remain trapped in information darkness. The very people imposing the blackout are exempt from it. You can imagine the anger this is creating. When people discover that their leaders are protecting their own internet access while denying it to the population, it produces a very specific kind of resentment. The state media continues to broadcast messages about unity between the government and the people against this so-called imposed war by America and Israel. Yet that unity is being proclaimed by an institution that has deliberately decided the Iranian people do not deserve the same information their rulers enjoy. This contradiction is not lost on the Iranian public. They may not see the full outside picture, but they can clearly see the existence of this two-tier system. They observe that the blackout has rules for them, but not for the elite. That observation alone is politically corrosive. It undermines every claim of national solidarity the regime tries to project. Meanwhile, the IRGC is actively hunting Starlink users. They detect the terminal signal and send teams to the location. Every Iranian citizen who tries to connect to the outside world through satellite internet is taking a personal security risk, the same risk that led to the death of people like Hamaldim. This is the environment in which the IRGC is trying to project strength with 130 boats. I want you to connect these dots with me. The 130 boat formation is happening while the regime is managing multiple internal fractures, a power struggle between hardliners and moderates, institutional tension between the regular army and the IRGC, and growing public disillusionment caused by the longest internet blackout in modern state history. Mustafa Salami's bridging role becomes even more significant in this context. He understands both the operational reality of what these 130 boats can and cannot achieve, and the historical memory of what happens when Iranian military institutions fight past the point of sustainability. The intelligence picture this morning also includes something the imagery does not show: deep penetration. The Zangin explosion demonstrated that American or Israeli intelligence has reached into the very VIP protection units meant to shield Iranian leadership. That level of insider access changes everything about how the regime calculates risk. Now, let us talk about Project Freedom Plus. President Trump has already confirmed publicly that if things do not improve, America may return to Project Freedom, but this time it will be Project Freedom Plus. The deliberate ambiguity of that plus is brilliant strategic communication. The IRGC can see our 3 carrier strike groups. They can count our F-16s, FA-18s, Apaches, and A-10s. They can model the known quantity of 130 boats against our known response, but they cannot accurately model the unknown elements hidden inside Plus. Will it include expanded strikes on coastal infrastructure, covert operations, intensified cyber actions against their financial networks, direct action by special forces, accelerated economic warfare through the blockade? The IRGC must prepare for all of it without knowing which elements will actually be activated. That uncertainty is itself a powerful weapon. The 130 boats in coordinated formation represent Iran's attempt to make Plus feel too costly. By showing their remaining asymmetric capabilities so openly, they hope to deter the expanded version of Project Freedom. At the same time, CENTCOM's response imagery, showing American aircraft already airborne and ready, sends the clear counter message: your display does not deter us. 15,000 American service members are currently enforcing the blockade, with up to 50,000 in the broader CENTCOM region. Marines with F-35 Bravo variants. The 82nd Airborne providing additional ISR coordination. 3 carrier strike groups whose combined air wings represent more than 100 combat aircraft dedicated to this theater. This is not a light commitment. This is not a minimal presence. This is overwhelming force projection. I want you to feel the weight of this moment. The boats are sitting exposed near Keshem and the Rock Islands. Their crews know what happened to the first wave on May 3rd. They know the Apaches are already operating in the area. They know the A-10s are ready. They know the destroyers are positioned with their guns trained. And they know that Plus remains undefined, which means they have no idea what scale of response they might actually face if they choose to commit. This is why Mustafa Salami's perspective matters so profoundly right now. As someone who remembers 1988, he understands the danger of continuing a fight when the operational and strategic math no longer favors continuation. The hardliners want to project defiance. The regular Army veterans understand the cost of defiance without realistic prospects of success. The internet blackout is trying to hide these internal debates from the Iranian people. But the 2-tier system is simultaneously revealing the regime's lack of trust in its own population. The 130 boats are therefore not just a military signal. They are a political signal. They are an attempt by the IRGC to consolidate hardliner support and project strength while the regime struggles with internal fractures, information control problems, and the growing awareness among both elites and ordinary citizens that the conventional naval power they once relied upon has been largely eliminated. This is the full strategic context of May 10th, 2026. The visual conversation between the Sentinel-2 imagery of the boats and the CENTCOM imagery of American forces is happening against this backdrop of Iranian internal tension, strategic uncertainty about Project Freedom Plus, and a deeply fractured information environment inside the country. I am watching all of this very closely. The boats are in the water, The platforms are in the air. The networks are linked. The GBU-72s are ready. And somewhere in planning rooms across the region, the specific content of Plus is being finalized against the exact threat picture these 130 boats have now provided. The IRGC released its own targeting data this morning. They showed us where they are. Now we wait to see whether they truly want us to use that information. Now, let me bring everything together for you in a clear, coherent picture. The boats are in the water. The platforms are in the air. The networks are fully linked through Link 16. This is the strategic reality. On the morning of May 10th, 2026, Iran has shown its last significant card on the water. 130 fast attack boats formed up in two massive, deliberate formations near Keshem and the Rock Islands. They released the coordinates themselves. They wanted the world, and especially America, to see exactly what they still possess. We have answered with equal clarity. 3 carrier strike groups, F-16 Vipers and FA-18 Super Hornets already flying, AH-64 Apaches and A-10 Thunderbolts ready. The full weight of American detection, networking, and precision firepower positioned and waiting. 2 simultaneous image releases, one side showing what it has, the other side showing exactly what will meet it. I want you to feel the tension in this moment. Project Freedom Plus is no longer just a possibility. It is the looming unknown. The deliberate ambiguity of that plus is America's strongest counter to Iran's deterrence display. The IRGC can calculate 130 boats. They cannot accurately calculate what plus truly contains. The crews in those boats know what happened to the first wave on May 3rd. They know the Apaches are already operating in the strait. They know the A-10s are loitering. And right now, I have no doubt that prayer beads are turning quickly in the hands of every fast attack boat operator sitting in those 2 large formations. They are calculating the math. 130 boats versus 3 carrier strike groups, complete air superiority, and layered precision response. They are wondering what plus will actually look like if they choose to turn this visual statement into kinetic reality. The visual conversation is complete. Iran has spoken with its boats. America has answered with its full spectrum of power. The only question that remains is whether the IRGC will test what they have just seen, or whether this morning's bold display will be remembered as their final attempt at deterrence before reality sets in. Watch Eliza Grant Reports daily for geopolitical analysis that cuts through the mainstream narrative and reveals the true strategic calculations shaping global conflicts. Because when the stakes are this high, accurate information is literally a matter of survival.